Greetings, colleagues, our staff members, our postdoctoral fellows, our students, and the various communities that support us both nationally as well as internationally. As you're aware, I have just joined in as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research and Internationalization, and I look forward to a prosperous year, in a year that we will all work together to achieve the university's quest for global excellence in stature. I thought that on this occasion that we, as we were starting preparation for this talk, we were talking about communities that deal with research and those communities that deal with teaching. And I thought I'll say something about the enterprise of learning. And I think there's always this contestation of whether we strive to be a teaching university or whether we strive to be a research university. And in the quest for learning, as Alexander von Humboldt has one put, that is the ultimate quest as it leads to research-led teaching. So in the idea of research-led teaching, we have of course, we have the strategic objectives to strive for excellence in research and innovation, along with excellence in teaching and learning. We also have our other strategic objectives, such as those that deal with international profile for global excellence and stature. I thought that our vision to be a university of choice anchored in Africa and dynamically shaping the future, I think it is quite well complemented by the impetus of our new Vice-Chancellor, who brought in the input of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. In the Fourth Industrial Revolution, I'm reminded that the Fourth Industrial Revolution is not only in the context of technology, but it is also in the context of social changes, of geopolitics, of earth systems, and of techno-economics, as in the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals that was put forward by Jeffrey Sachs of Columbia University. So in this model of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, it appears that there's a strength that we have as a university. And that strength is not always obvious, because I think over the last couple of years we have been building what I call disciplinary strengths. So we have been strengthening our approach in the various areas of science, in the various areas of humanities. But what comes out strongly in our own unique ways is that, although this is a limited parameter and it's not the only parameter that we should refer to, and this is the parameter of a field-weighted citation impact. And it is interesting that when one looks at the field-weighted citation impact, what one sees is that the university, in terms of academic impact, is an institution that has contributed in various disciplines and not just in one discipline. So what that means is that there may be an opportunity for us to bring about convergence between multiple disciplines with the humanities and social sciences on the one side, and on the alongside in the disciplines relating to science, engineering, technology, business and economics, health sciences, education. So I think that the multidisciplinary angle is one that becomes quite important. Somehow we've had research, we've had some innovations, but it almost appears that there is a lot more, and I guess whenever we think and reflect, I think there's always an opportunity for us to do a lot more. And in this quest to do a lot more, I think the university also demonstrated by our various ranking accolades that we have received, from the QS ranking to Times Higher Education and others. We are clearly quite visible from an academic impact point of view. When I refer to academic impact, I refer also to aspects relating to teaching, employability, over and above the aspects of citations. But what is of interest is that academic impact has occurred, but in countries like our country, South Africa, and on regional Africa, we find that despite the progresses that we may have had in terms of research, that there's a lot more that we can do if we really want to diminish poverty, inequality and unemployment So it seems that on the one hand we have research, we have innovation, and perhaps the innovation is hidden in our research. And I think that we ought to mine this innovation. And I think when we mine this innovation with fine intellectual property, that will also bring about economic and societal impact. I do think that the way to achieve economic and societal impact is to depart from our approach of only disciplinary based research, but also to blend with multidisciplinary areas of research. When I say multidisciplinary, I also mean cross-disciplinary, where we take strengths of, or the maturity of discipline of specific research output and apply it to other disciplines where those research outputs are in fact the solutions to the problems that have been unsolved. It seems that if we are able to bring this together, we'll be able to not just have the vision of being a university that is anchored in Africa, dynamically shaping the future, but we will be ones that will in fact bring about implementation. So, implementation is quite important. In Professor Marwala's presentation, our Vice-Chancellor's presentation last year, he had indicated to us the strife in the dimension of the fourth industrial revolution. So specifically when he talked about it, he indicated in the changing social, political, economic fortunes of Africa. And I think that this is important, the aspects such as the social and political in addition to the technological. I repeat this to bring about the emphasis. As I was speaking to one of our researchers in the area of social change, and we were reminded that if you work with only technology as a solution, you find that automation has a negative impact on job creation. And thus I was jokingly saying to him that if we have the fourth industrial revolution without taking society into account, I don't know if we will achieve the fourth industrial revolution, but we'll certainly have a revolution. And thus I think this is something that this is an opportunity for us as a university. The University of Johannesburg always brings about an unconventional way of solving our own problems, but also problems that the various research communities around the world face. And I think that this unconventional approach that we have is an approach that has delivered well for us as a university. We have not only aspired in terms of ranking, but as an institution we attract over 100,000 applications and we attract better students every year. This tells us that those students see something very special about the University of Johannesburg. And reflecting, I was engaging with some of our social media, and I realized that those that are outside of us have an appreciation for us because a lot of our topics relate to not only science, or humanities or social sciences or economics that is only applicable in theory, but those areas that also bring solutions for both urban as well as rural communities in the country. I wondered why it is so, and I think it is so because a lot of our students do in fact come from the most poor parts of our country. And I think that they have an exposure and they have a willingness for change and they have an energy for this change. And I think if we can bring elements that can help us leapfrog, such as the fourth industrial revolution, but not only the fourth industrial revolution, but other elements of sustainable development, I think that they will be able to implement a new era of change that will have societal impact. I thought of also saying a couple of words about another theme that has arisen in the last year, which is in the last 2 to 3 years. It is not a new theme, it is an old theme that has reappeared, which is the theme of decolonization of knowledge. And when I look at the theme of decolonization of knowledge in our quest for global excellence and stature, it almost appears that these two themes are disconnected. However, there's a term that I'd like to introduce. It's not my own term, but it's a term that perhaps some of you would relate to. it's the term globalization. And globalization, in my view, could have a definition where strengths that are unique to South Africa and unique to Africa are strengths that in fact can be globalized. And I think that if we're able to do this, we will be able to put Africa first. I'm going to put it that way. I think that the fact that decolonization, as well as the fourth industrial revolution, and a number of other themes, let's think about transnational components of education. What I like about these themes is that they bring about an aspect of contestations of knowledge domains. And when knowledge domains are contested, traditional knowledge domains are contested, they bring about a new era and renew our approach to thinking. I like to think about contestation of epistemologies as an area that is like putting the mind in a gym. And I think if we're able to do that, we're able to constantly recognize the strengths that we have, rather than to only recognize the strengths that may come from other places. While they're important, I think that they will help to complement and help us to bring about new solutions that will have an impact, particularly on the emerging parts of the world. These emerging parts of the world includes the BRICS. And I think if we think about the population in the BRICS and we think about the population on our continent, we suddenly realize that we're dealing with a large part of the world, perhaps a part of the world that would benefit the most from the societal impact that we wish to bring about. So in conclusion, I think that the area of research, innovation and internationalization are deeply connected, and although some of the other themes that I've mentioned appears to be about at contest, I think that they help us to create new knowledge versus only increment knowledge. So obviously in my portfolio there are certain aspects that are really important. Of course everything is important, but there are some that are really important, and I'm sure that they're important for you too. One of them is the area of our postgraduates and their inclusion in terms of driving the research and innovation agenda. When I say innovation, I also talk about not only graduating students who are good at writing CVs, but students who are also good at writing business plans, so that they can help to engineer entrepreneurship more so than we have done before. I think the second component is of, and you expected me to say something about research outputs, so I won't disappoint you. We do expect to have higher levels of research output than before, but at the same time we would also like to see a higher quality of our outputs. We would like to see outputs in journals such as with Nature, with Science and others. The next component that I think I should also say something about, and it is not because research occurs without innovation, but because we still have more to do in terms of harvesting intellectual property from our research journey. So I think if we're able to do that, we'd be able to identify and, where necessary and applicable, protect intellectual property by means of appropriate instruments such as patents, and ensure that those protected IP or IP that can be deployed in the area of new products, services, or the continuum of product services. In terms of internationalization, I think there is always more that we can do, and we should do more in terms of recruiting, retaining international students, staff and postdoctoral research fellows. I tend to see, and we were engaging some folks earlier last week as our new enrollment is underway, about international students. And I think there was an international student from another part of our continent who was speaking to a student from South Africa. And immediately what became clear that was being added here was the component of not just diversity from a cultural point of view, but diversity that brings about innovation. I think when we look in a mirror, sometimes we see ourselves, but if you take a mirror and you go to a mountain peak and you look at the mirror, sometimes you see yourself, sometimes you see the world behind us. I think that our international students can help us be the mirror that is behind us, but also be in front of us to bring about dimensions of diversity as well as innovation. The library, which is another part of my portfolio, I see that as a heart of the academy. I think that the library will continue to have several engagements. Last year we had 100 engagements. We hope to have a similar number this year. This is a special year. This is a year when we, if Mandela had been alive, it would be his 100th year. So I think we will have a series of talks throughout the year that helps to bring about the thematic areas that was aspired by our late President Mandela. But also we will complement it with a number of other series, including transnational components of curricula, the aspects of decolonization of knowledge, and of course the aspect of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Perhaps you are also thinking of the Fifth Industrial Revolution, or maybe the Sixth, but it is better for us to think about it before others do. So that will be my message, and I wish the best once again for the year ahead of us, and I look forward to serving together with you. I'd also like to take this opportunity to congratulate Professor Jan Kramers of the Faculty of Science. I think it is every time we have a major research breakthrough, it positions us in the global front. I think it was spectacular that within a few days of having the breakthrough research, and for those of you that are not aware, it is an approach of using a micromineral analysis to look at certain arrivals that came to Earth at one point and to see whether these arrivals, in terms of this analysis, if these arrivals don't redefine the way that we understand the solar system. And I think that the work that Professor Kramers and his team, also his team, has led is something that we are really proud of, and we wish to see many more such works from his team and also from others that he has inspired through this work. And of course also to congratulate him on his A rating as achieved through the National Research Foundation. We're very proud and look forward to future excitement.